Hey, welcome to another art session commentary. This time I'm gonna watch The Walking Dead's first season episode Vatos, or however you pronounce it. So, it's the first scene of the episode where you see Amy, you see the two sisters on the boat talking about fishing. Great scene, right? Again, I'm working on my concept art of this character, and this is a great example of when you know things don't work out the way I want them. Because I've been trying to work on the nose and try to fix it because the nose looked goofy to me every time I looked at it, and I kept trying to fix it, and it just kept driving me insane. I had to take a lot of retakes, and then to the point where it's like I'll just keep going, and you are probably gonna see a long pause somewhere because I kind of just got like, a little bit fed up with how things are turning out in this particular piece. I don't know. There was a lot of things that was not going the way I wanted them to, but that's part of the problem of doing things without a reference. You just kind of have to try to think really hard. It's a lot. It's more hard work when you don't have a reference or anything. And I really do wish that I don't know, like because this I think I did this straight up in Illustrator. I don't think I even did a drawing of it or an underdrawing of it. I don't think I did, and that was pretty lazy of me. But part of it's just the learning, and I think you learn more by just trying to make these proportions on your own, and trying to do all this stuff by yourself. Because if you keep going by the book and that's how you learn, you're gonna start doing repetition at some point. So it's always nice to get a little bit outside of proportional law, almost I like to call it. But at some point, sometimes if it's something that's really challenging, you do need reference. If it's something that you have not done before, or if it's whatever, reference is there to help. But if you don't have that reference, you're gonna be struggling, and I think that struggle is a little bit worth it because you should learn multiple ways of on how to do a face or whatever first copying other faces, copying other books, and all that. It's really interesting and really interesting to think about. Uh, and the nose and the eyes, I think, are the hardest to get right, especially the nose, because it's the only thing in part of the face that really, really sticks out, has its own, almost its own plane of light and all this weird stuff, so you kind of have to transition that in a 2D space where you kind of have to imply that it's coming out like a normal nose would. Um, but at the same time, as I said in the previous commentary, I get a lot of inspiration from animation shows that I've seen that kind of have more of a, they barely have a nose sometimes. But it's always just nice to play with the noses and understand the nose a little bit more. So the reason why I chose The Walking Dead to talk about is because it's something that I really, really can't. There's something about the show that I kind of don't like. The first season I think was the only good season that the show had. It's really great. I recommend the first season. The other seasons just kind of dwindled down to stupidity. Um, I mean, my only gripes with the first season is some of the dialogue is kind of boring. Like the beginning of this episode, I just didn't think that dialogue was captivating or interesting, and didn't really tell anything about the characters because it felt very forced. Like, oh, I'm supposed to catch him and I'm supposed to put him back or something, and that was just so, like it just could have been much better, and I just didn't like the dialogue. But other than that, this season is much better. The characters are more likable, and the other thing is that I get a lot of heat on is that people I don't like the next few the other seasons is because I think the characters become more idiotic and unlikable and just overall stupid. And then someone would tell me, well, I'm just saying that because I really like the comic books, and you're judging it too much because you're comparing it with the comic books, and that's not true. Because the one thing I really liked about the first season was that it didn't follow the comic books. I liked that they went to the CDC and all that. I loved that kind of stuff. But where I started drawing the lines was that these characters were just becoming more and more unlikable and just idiotic. And I mean, especially Shane. I mean, I think they butchered that character. In the first season, they did a really good job highlighting Shane as a character that wanted to stay with Lori, but it was underplayed and it was this rising tension. And then in the second season, he just became a douchebag that just kind of that whines all the time. I mean, it was because almost every episode he wanted to leave and he wanted to go somewhere, and someone just kept telling him not to, and it was just boring and it was awful dialogue and it just kind of dragged. The other issue I had with Shane's character is that like I couldn't. Oh, well, it's mainly Rick. Actually, I take that back. It wasn't just Shane. Rick is also an imbecile in season two, because numerous occasions Shane tried to kill Rick, and Rick kept trying to be like, "Oh, we can still be friends" and all that. And personally, that is bullshit. Because if you look at because I would understand it if they were just fighting. If it was just a fist of just fighting, punch, punch, kick, or that kind of stuff. But Shane was trying to kill him. I don't know about you, but if my friend tried to kill me, I probably wouldn't hang out with him anymore, or give him any benefit of the doubt. Oh, here's where I started getting really fed up with this with the line work. But I think I finally kind of get to a good middle ground with it. But yeah, the first season I feel like has a better understanding of the characters, and the other thing is like the reason why I picked Vatos for example is it is such a great homage to the comic book. There was this one, it being the ending. I'll get to the ending when we get there, but that ending was perfect for that episode, and I loved it. And everything else was great as well. I will say, I think the whole thing that it goes on with, I think the guy's name is Jim, and Dale, I think, is weird. Like, Dale goes and tells the group that there's a problem, and I don't think there's a problem with a character, with a guy just digging holes. I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing if he was digging holes like right next to the next to Lori and Carl and all those people, but he's going like into a distant place where they're not gonna see him. At least I don't think they. I mean, they showed him in a field, and then it was just like, oh, there's a problem. He's digging holes, and it's just like, why is that an issue? Why should we be concerned that he's digging holes? I mean, I'd be more concerned if he starts talking weird things, saying like, well, oh, we're all gonna go down those holes tomorrow or something. And I don't know. It's just it could have been done better than just him digging holes, and that is the reason to be alarmed. I don't know. This is weird. And the reason why I do that line, the thing I was trying to thing is, if you look at yourself in the mirror, take your finger, go to the end of your eye, like the inside where the tear duct is, and go straight down. It'll touch right where like the end of the nostril. So I was just like trying to figure out where the eye would be and just kind of do it that way. It kind of works, and then sometimes it just kind of works, doesn't work because if the eyes are off, then the nose will be off, and that's all. That's just recipe for disaster. The colors I still kind of have it together. Because again, like Illustrator isn't a painting program, but it's nice to do simple tones if you want to do simple things. But it's more work you have to pour into because there's more stuff you have to think about colors and how they go with each other. But I don't know, like it's a nice challenge, and hopefully at some point I will be able to afford uh, Photoshop so I can do color mixing properly. Because the one thing I do like about Illustrator that I think is a lot better than Photoshop in some cases is since it's vectors, it's a lot more sleek, smooth, and more gorgeous to look at. I think than Photoshop. Because Photoshop does pixels, and it's just things come off weird. It's great if you do the line work in Illustrator, then you just take that file and put it into Photoshop, and then you just paint it that way, and that's pretty much what most people do. And I'm not most people. But since I don't have Photoshop, I can't really do that, and I have to go with what I have, and I don't. mean, there's been a time where it's just like, I kind of regretted buying Illustrator. I was like, I wish I bought Photoshop instead. But then I was just like, no, I kind of like Illustrator because I still like the challenge that I'm having to relearn this application and go back into it. And I think it works. It works very well with what I wanted in all my work. Um, and the other thing I kind of didn't like about what happened with The Walking Dead was, the first season, it felt somewhat modest about itself. It was just like, what, here's The Walking Dead. It's cool. It's a zombie TV show. Great. And then it's just within the second season, they started to rev up the PR to the point where it was just kind of annoying just to turn on the TV at times and going on Facebook because everyone is just talking about the show, and it's not like, oh yeah, the show's great or something. It's just they're not, delving into the show's story that much, and they're just taking it at face value. I don't know. It's just I feel like the people who watch it now aren't really people who were there in the beginning, and it's just they're watching the show and they're just like, okay, it's cool, it's zombie stuff, but it's just these characters just get dumbed down at times, and it kind of just derails me from the show. Personally, I mean, I don't think it's complete garbage, but I don't think it's as good as it is. I think it could have been much better. Because the other issue I just didn't understand was the writing staff of the first season all got fired. I don't understand why they were fired because these characters were really, really well written, and then the people they got for season two were just awful. Because the other thing is they tend to drag in the second season. I've noticed, but the other thing I don't like is they make these characters this pandering. They pander a lot to the viewer, and I don't like that. If you're gonna have a show, you should not never ever pander to who's watching. You should pander to yourself because it's your show, it's your stuff. Do something that you would want to see, not what someone else wants to see. Because you start to lose that kind of integrity that you had. Uh, Robert Kirkman, I mean, I don't really have a problem with him, but it's just, even his comic book series is just slowly going down the drain for me. I'm getting really burnt out, and then just thinking about how the TV series is going to keep going is just like, that's just kind of disheartening, because now is just the show's going to get worse and worse and worse, in my opinion. And the only thing that's great in the Walking Dead universe is the Telltale games. Yeah, if you own a PS3 or Xbox 360, I highly recommend you download the Telltale Walking Dead game. That is the only thing that's like, wow, that's it's really captivating. These characters actually grow and change, and so much stuff is going on. And I love that. And then now recently, they said that there could still be potential for a crossover with the game and the TV show, and I kind of don't want that because I don't want the TV show, touching the game because I'm afraid that they're slowly going to start changing writing styles in the game, and I don't want to deal with that. And then I don't want the character from the game to be in the TV show, and then have them ruin that character. It's I don't want that. Um, the thing is, the TV show has such a different mentality. I feel like than what the comic and the game want to accomplish. I just really think that the TV show has another motive or another idea for the story, not in the sense of oh, it's branching away, but it's just not realizing the potential it has, in my opinion. I think the game realizes what they could do with the franchise, and the TV show just kind of doesn't. Because the drama just feels so artificial, and there's just a lot of artificial feelings I have with the show. Just nothing feels natural anymore. I mean, the first season you can even argue is not that natural, but it was more natural than the other two seasons. Like there were some lines that Rick said in this that were just like, "Come on, really?" But yeah, I'm still trying to work on the nose. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I was just trying to figure out because I know ultimately the nose is kind of a shape of an upside down triangle, and that's something that I kept trying to keep and trying to work. Um, but it'll just be an ongoing battle. I feel like with this. And then the other thing is, that, Meryl and Daryl, I keep getting the names confused, and I don't really like those characters. I really think those characters are just boring. Because again, like they make these characters fan pandering almost, especially Meryl or Daryl, whichever one that everyone talks about. And I don't think they're really that badass or interesting characters at all. I really think they're just very boring. Like, oh, they're the southern hick redneck character. Oh, and it's just like I just don't like that. No, I drew that line in the middle of the nose was because since pretty much the tip of your nose is a ball, I just wanted to draw that line there so I know that uh, at some point there's going to be a pop, whatever. But and they also create a central line as well. Now, I will say the zombies look interesting in the show. Like I don't think they ever changed the look of the zombies that much. I think they keep the same quality or get better. I think I will say, but it's just still I feel a lot of it is still kind of fan pandering, and I kind of don't like a lot of the choices. But seeing how the comic book series is kind of repeating a story trend, threads, especially with their current volume, I the current volume was just bad. I could talk on and on about how the current volume is bad because it telegraphed a lot of stuff to me. Like it telegraphed where Maggie's gonna end up going. It's like I kind of know where she's gonna end up being at this point. Like, and I'm not sure if the TV show is gonna touch on it, but like they don't touch upon anything. But the comic book, they had Maggie say a few lines to this one girl, and it kind of rubbed me to the point where it's like I feel that she's gonna become a lesbian, and that's fine. But it's just like I don't like the how telegraphed it was, and it just felt really obvious, and I just don't like that kind of stuff. I mean, if you have her be a lesbian, great, but just don't be like she might be. Ooh, and it's just like I just know that's where it's gonna go, and I don't have any point at that point. It's like if I could tell that's where it's gonna go right now, I don't want to keep going. The thing is, like I don't, the villain in the series at this point in the comic is just like the governor. It's the same story, and it's weird. And at this point, I do kind of feel kind of tired with Rick, and I think that and that goes with the dual edged sword, where I feel like they should kill Rick, but then if they do kill him, it's like I don't know where they're gonna go with it, and then it's like I feel like that's just fan pandering as well. I don't know. It's weird. It's a very mixed position, but I wouldn't mind if they killed him that much. I would be interested, but they're just not gonna do it. I don't think. And if they do, I don't know who would be a good replacement for him. I will say Shane was well casted. The guy looks a little bit like him, but again, they just made him more idiotic in the second season. Like, I mean, he's on his. I mean, like the whole confrontation. Like, if you look at the book, when the whole confrontation with Shane had with Rick, Shane's had a lot of stuff, he was and he was saying like he said a lot of stuff, but he was saying like how he missed being in charge. He liked being in charge, and he liked being the one giving the orders, not following them, and all that stuff. And that was really interesting. And to see in the second season to dumb it down to "I fucked your wife" was just really insulting to that character. I mean, it's so dumbed down and bad. I was like, why? Why did he need to be that simplified? Why simplify his conflict with just him? It's just I don't like that at all because it just makes everything boring and this kind of well not boring but just it makes it just so it's awful. And they also sped up Carl's development as well in the series, which I think is just bad. I mean, spoiler alert for the third season. Carl kills his mom. That never happened in the comic books. With how Lori died in the comic books was, well, she did give birth to the daughter. They named her, I think, Rose. I think, uh, and the governor infiltrated the prison, and then Lori, Rick, and all the people were just running for their lives, and Lori got shot in the back. It was a vital shot. It killed her and the baby at the same time. So honestly, you kind of hate the governor a lot at that point. There's no way you would be on his side or just be like, hey man, it was just, wow, that's really shitty, and man, that sucks. And then in the show, it's like, no, not Carl kills him. It's like, I don't think Carl at that point should be that okay with killing his mom. Like, I just don't think that. I mean, yeah, you could argue that, he wouldn't want her mom to turn to a zombie, but it's still kind of dark for the sudden change of Carl to be all of a sudden uh, okay with killing his mom. Is this already being, it's just that, doesn't sit well with me. I mean, if I put myself in Carl's shoes, I would not be able to do it. I would not be able to pull that trigger. I would just be like, I can't do this, and leave. But again, Carl's just like, hey, I'm a badass, I can do it. And I just think and again, that felt a little bit fan pandering a little bit with Carl. And because as soon as that episode aired, everyone was saying how badass Carl was. And it's like, no, he shouldn't be praised for this. It's sloppy writing. I just don't think that should be his moment where he, is okay with shooting a gun at a person. I don't know. It could have been done better. I mean, the comic books, I know do it better, but it's like, I'm not saying that they should mimic the comic books, but they can do stuff that's that good, but they just decide not to and kind of go with whatever, hackneyed, lazy way they want to do it. I don't know. It's just, really don't like the TV series. I think they make these weird decisions that are just kind of jarring for me. It's like, why? Why is this happening? And, I stopped watching it, and I couldn't finish the third season, and I'm glad I didn't finish it. I wouldn't want to. The last thing I remember was a face-off with Meryl and Daryl or something, and I was like, I don't care about these characters. Because again, I don't like those characters. I don't get why everyone's like so goo goo gaga over them. Because, I guess I can understand girls being, ooh, they're so hot, ooh, but it's like, I don't even, I don't know, it's weird. I don't like, because with a redneck hick character like Meryl and Daryl, it's just they're not really interesting, and they just kind of fall into a stereotype. I mean, it was like in the first season they kind of had that with Daryl just being, you know, making these slide racist comments. It's like, do we really need to make him racist? I mean, do we really need to have this character to say these things? I mean, come on. I mean, the Southern culture is already plagued with racism. I don't think we need a character continuing that. Now this I liked. I liked the whole thing with the Vatos. I thought that was really cool because these people are the Vatos. Now here is it's either this scene or another. No, I think there's another scene or somewhere where he said that you know mistakes was made on both sides, that kind of stuff. It's just that didn't really sound too natural for me. I don't know. It just felt weird. Um, because it just sounds like you go to a message board and you see all these people arguing about whatever, and then you'll have that one guy coming into that message board saying, hey guys, take it easy, it's okay. I mean, this and it's just trying to be a peacekeeper, and it's like, I just don't think in a zombie apocalypse people would be that calm about it, like, oh yeah, both mistakes were made. It's like, I don't know. I don't know, like, it's not terrible, it's not the worst thing, but it just comes weird. It comes kind of clunky at times, I feel like, but it's not bad. It's just, I feel like Rick could have been written better. And the other thing is, like, I gave a pass with the casting of Rick. Because at first, for a while, it was like, I don't really like him, but, in season one, they kind of proved that this guy could be Rick, but then in the second season and so on, they just kind of made him dumb. Because the thing that I kind of liked about Rick and the way I pictured him was with red or orange hair or maybe even brown hair. And he had long hair too. He had like a bangs and all that stuff, and here he has short hair. And the other issue I had with it was that he was a cop, and then he was he had to go to the hospital because of that gunshot wound or whatever, and his hair stayed exactly the same, and it's like really he would have the same hair. No time has passed. It's weird. Uh, I don't know if it was this season or the second season that showed what no, I think it was the second season actually, if I remember correctly. It shows what Shane did after he visited Rick in the hospital when he was unconscious, and that was really cool. I liked that episode. That was the only thing good that came out of the second season because everything else was just crap. Uh, but yeah, with Rick, didn't really agree with the casting of him, but I think there could have been worse decisions, but I think he was okay. And his voice doesn't match with what the voice I had for him in my head, but that's typical stuff. I mean, it's like if Nintendo gave Link a voice actor, I doubt everyone's gonna be like, yeah, that's the voice I had for him. So I'm okay with again. I'm okay uh with some of the casting decisions. Lori, I thought was pretty good. I mean, she was pretty close to her character in looks. But oh, Lori, okay. Lori in the second season, she can just go to hell, in my opinion, because in the first season, Lori was really understanding and she was a powerful character, and well, maybe not powerful, but she was just a good character that could stand on her own, and all this stuff. And then in the second season, they just kind of made her a bitch, and I hated it. It's like you know, I loved Lori in The Walking Dead. I really thought that she was a really good character. She really, balanced Rick. Like when Rick felt that he was going a little bit too insane, she was there to, relax him and kind of reel him back into reality. Then to see, Lori become this bitch in the second season was just kind of jarring. It's like, why are you? And my personal philosophy, you're doing an adaptation of anything, is like you don't have to follow word by word of what happened, but get the characters right. I mean, just get their beliefs or something, their principles, their personality, close to what you're basing the show on. I mean, just have Rick act like he would in the comic book a little bit or something. Have Lori act the way that she does in the comic book because like the thing I have a problem with her is that she wanted Shane out of her life and away pretty much, and every time Shane was like, "Okay, well I'm leaving," she kept telling him not to. Most of the time, I mean, it was either her or someone else, and then she kind of leads Rick onto the thought of you should kill Shane because he thinks I'm his, and this and that, blah blah blah, and then spoiler alert, he dies in the second season, and then she gets pissy about it. It's like I feel like in the comic book series, Lori wouldn't be shitty about it because I even think I remember like there was the reaction she got and she spit on his grave in the comic book. That's how much she was okay with him being dead. It was and that is perfect. But in the fucking movie, it's like you killed him. I can't believe you killed. It's like come on, come on. Like I can't believe that is what. Ugh, God, I hated it. It was awful. It's awful. They ruined Lori in the second season, and that's the thing. Like everyone started making fun of her because of the second season. It's like, well, if you read the books, you would like that character more because she's not a bitch and she's not a fucking idiot. She's actually smart, intellectual, and interesting to read about and all that stuff. And then in the TV series, it's like, well, she's a bitch. Fuck her, right, guys? It's like, no. And I just didn't like what they did with her at all. I really hated it. Oh, it's awful. Oh, and this scene kind of reminded me of something that would happen in the Breaking Bad. I feel like like something Walt would meet these, this gang or thugs or something. Then this old lady would come in. I mean, I know that kind of happened with Victor Salamanca, but he was a bad person. But I'm saying like he would meet, a kind of, old lady that doesn't, that kind of stuff. I feel like that, that scene felt something like that would be in a Breaking Bad episode. Now this is good. I like this. Again, like this is one of my favorite episodes. The finale is probably my one of my favorites. But this one was good because it kind of made you see the world differently, and it's so cool. It's great. You see these desperate people living. It's great. I mean, this is how I would picture the apocalypse. That kind of stuff. This is what I picture. Nothing else. Not the campsite that Rick is stationed at with Shane and all those people. I picture what's in this episode personally. That's just me. Because I think they're hauled up at a retirement home, and I was thinking where I would stay during a zombie apocalypse, and Walmart is one of the places that I would think because they have guns there. Depending on the Walmart, they have food, they have clothes, they have everything there. But the other place but I was thinking so many other multiple places. But one of the other places would be probably a retirement home. I could see some logic there at least because it's a big building and has an alarm system and all that stuff. But okay, so now I think I got the nose somewhere where I'm kind of okay with it. I'm probably gonna, look up somewhere noses and all that stuff. But right now the nose looks fine. Sorry if I was going on a long tangent about The Walking Dead, but that's part of the commentaries. That's kind of why I wanted to do these. I wanted to share my opinion as I watch something and talk about it, and maybe sometimes even talk about the artwork. So it's a good balance. I feel like I like doing these videos. I love them, and I hope you like listening to me talk for however long. Uh, Man. Like some of when they ask them about their jobs and all that, I love the reveals like, oh, he was a nurse, and then and I think he said like he's a custodian. I was like, oh, that's cool. But I kind of wish we saw that character more. But yeah, the other thing like with this season, I felt there was a lot more emotion and dedication put into it, while in the second season there was just kind of, isn't this sad, guys? Come on, feel sad, right? Oh, look, something sad happened. It's like, that I don't know. It's like I feel like with the way that the show is going, I feel like that it's telegraphing things, and it's just it's a show just trying to be edgy for the sake of being edgy. I don't think with some of the stuff you could substitute it and it'd be okay. That's kind of how I feel about it. And, like I do, work on my own comic book series, which I kind of think it's good, but I also think it's kind of crap. And the one thing that I do think is it's an easy trap to go for the obvious kind of edginess of it, like, oh, you're gonna have this girl being raped, isn't that, woo? And I feel like that's how most of The Walking Dead goes, and I feel like, when I work on an issue, I feel like that I might be cut it up into this, and it's like, okay, well, this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen, this would be dramatic, and it's just like, yeah, it would be dramatic, but, do we really need it? Do we really need that drama to happen? you know, does the is this stuff? I mean, you should really, and people should just think, when you're working on a story, and if you're working um, on anything, you should just ask yourself if this was real life almost, and just does the situation need it, or does the characters need to go through this, or something like that? It's just because it just needs to feel organic, and that's you know the second season just doesn't feel organic to me. It just feels so far from organic. No, I like Dale. Dale in this season was smart, and I think and even in the second season he was smart. He was the only smart character, and then they kill him off in the second season, and it's just like, and he died in the dumbest way possible. It was just like that's how he died. It's awful. And the way he died in the comic books was better, and I liked him more in the comic book series because he lasted longer for sure. It was actually Herschel who died in the farm, not Dale. And I hated Herschel. I thought, oh no, Herschel didn't even die at the farm. He died in the prison. But anyways, Herschel's just he's a boring character because he's just a religious person. So of course, so it's just like, oh, we're gonna get him talking about God, and he's gonna make these religious metaphors, and if someone needs help, he's gonna make something religious. It's like, come on. And Dale was there, and everyone just kept shitting on him. Everyone hated Dale in the show. Not people who were watching, but everyone in the show hated Dale. And it's like, come on, he has a point. Everything he says made sense to me. I mean, and he was the only one that encouraged Shane to leave. I think I'm pretty sure. I mean, he was like, "Look, I know what's going on. You either have to stop or leave." And then everyone, and it's weird. I just like Shane as a character, and I kind of hate how they kind of killed Dale off, and I felt that it was almost they killed him because he was too smart. That's almost how it feels like to me. It's like, oh, you're too smart, time to kill you. And there are just moments that the show just became unintentionally funny to me. Again, like when Carl killed his mom, and he tells Rick, hey, mom is dead, or whatever. Rick just kind of gave this goofiest performance on that. Like, it's just, you know, if a loved one dies, yeah, that's really shitty and that really sucks, but I doubt someone would go as far as Rick did to show off how sad he is. I think he would be more because the thing is with grieving, he would just be like, oh, he would want to go see the body first, I don't know. It's like it just didn't feel right to me that instantly he was like, "Oh my god!" Woo! And it was just like it was goofy, and it's like the scene shouldn't be goofy, and I shouldn't have to laugh, and it was just come on. I've seen scenes like this handled a billion times better, in other places. Um, I mean, even even Lollipop Chainsaw handled that kind. Oh no, not Lollipop Chainsaw. I'm thinking of something else. Can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there's other places that handle that kind of grieving a lot better than that. Oh, and this is how I blend colors. I make squares, and then I go to object blend. It's not the best method, but it works. Because you can't mix it like you can in Photoshop. That's why I do it this way. When I first got it, I thought you could. Then I realized you can't. Because, again, they're vectors, so they can't really do that kind of stuff. But with this, it's good. It's close to it. I mean, you can edit the blending options. So I don't really think, you know, it's impossible to have a good. Again, like I don't think it's impossible to get something good out of Illustrator. I think you can, get something as good as you could at Photoshop. It's harder, and if you're willing to stomach the pain and challenge, and it's worth it. It's really worth it in my opinion. If you sit through all that challenge, the challenge of Illustrator, and it's worth it in my opinion. I said earlier I do regret buying it. There was one where I did regret buying it, but at the same time, it's like the more I use it, the more I like it, and the more stuff I pick up on it. And the other thing is like with art in general, like, you're gonna be spending hours and hours and hours on one piece. So it's like they kept going with the mentality of I can do this fast. I can do this in one day or in an hour and blah blah blah. And then, but the more I think about it, okay, sorry, I'm gonna stop what I was gonna say just to talk about this scene. Okay, this scene was fairly close to what happened in the book, page by page, and it was great. I loved this. This is what I was talking about, and why I hated about the second and third season, and so forth, is that they don't have these scenes that pay homage to the book, and I feel like the first season, was directly paying homage to the book. I mean, I know like Robert Kirkman did some of the writing for this, and I think he did some of the writing for the rest of the other seasons, but there was a team of writers, so I think it was just him and a few other people doing this episode. But again, like this felt so close to the comic, and I mean, I'm fine with homages like this. I mean, they didn't even need to have this exact scene, shot by shot, but they did a good job with it, and I really wish there was more scenes like it at points. I mean, I wish there was, at least maybe one episode per season, just have one scene or something that's something that was from the comic book that people would want to see, and then just go on with your own thing. Because again, I don't mind that they have these different characters. I don't mind some of these changes they made in the first season, because these changes were actually really good changes and interesting, and it kept you hooked. But then, these changes that they went on with in the rest of the other seasons were just awful. I hated them. They didn't really do anything for me. They were just boring. This was a better decision to have, and it kind of had more of an impact than most of anything else. Again, I'm working on the eyes and this kind of stance, because again, like this is actually a close up of a character that's gonna be shrunk. You see the final thing almost, but you'll see. That's what I mean by the end of this. But yeah, I kind of found a better skin tone. When I was working on it at first, it looked weird. It looked really red to me. But looking at it through this program that I'm doing this commentary on, it looks better. It looks a lot better than what it was before. Because the other thing that I keep forgetting about skin tones is skin does have a dab of red and browns and all these other colors, and I just keep ignoring them. I go to pink. I mean, and, pink is pretty close to skin color, but there's also reds when you're going darker and all that stuff. So that's something that I just keep ignoring. But I think this tone is fairly close to what I want. Just need more work. The line work needs more work. uh, but again, the interesting thing about Archer is that the characters that are done in the show are actually real people. The characters are drawn on based on models that they hired to be those characters. And I didn't know that because I was listening to a commentary, and the voice actress of Pam was like, "Yeah, I met the model of Pam in the show," and we're just like, hey Pam, what's up?" And so that's kind of what I mean. Like it's the kind that is interesting because it makes it a lot easier to understand the face, and I think it's just because I feel that the people working on Archer aren't really artistically inclined that much. I mean, I think they're talented and artistic, but it's just it's weird, like that they had to have these models and they just kind of copy paste them in other shows because it's just kind of easy work. Once you get the model down, because then they just become a puppet. Um, but for my animation that I'm working on, I'm actually doing it all by hand, and it's a longer process that's more painful, and I like it a little bit more because you get a lot out of what you get. I feel than you would through Flash. And here's them trying to connect Jim to the zombie's death, which I thought was weird. Yeah. Well, that's the end of that episode. So I guess this thing is wrapping up as well. Thanks for listening. I have a few ideas what I'm going to do in my next commentary. If you have suggestions or questions they want to be answered on the next commentary, feel free to comment on them here. I'll read the comments as always, and I'll take whatever suggestions you take, as long as there's something that I would want to do as well. I mean, well, as long as it's not like Katy Perry or any dumb crap like that, something that's interesting Okay? Well, I think that's the end of this episode and the end of this commentary. So, thanks again. See you next time.